The Vexenari Council had made their decision with cold precision. Commander Thane, the lone human aboard the Celestial Vengeance, was expendable. When the ambush came in the Kepler Rift, they abandoned him without hesitation, sealing the airlock behind them as they fled into slipspace. They left him on a dying vessel, oxygen bleeding into the void, weapons depleted and hull breached in 17 places. The Vexenari were a species that valued efficiency above all else. Sentiment was weakness. Loyalty was a liability. And humans, they had concluded, were too emotional, too reckless, too soft for the realities of galactic warfare. Commander Marcus Thane floated in the darkness of that crippled ship for 3 hours before he stopped screaming. Not from pain or fear, but from rage. Pure, crystallized fury that burned hotter than any star. He refused to die. With failing life support and a ship held together by hope and spite, Thane did what humans do best. He improvised. He stripped the emergency beacon for parts, jury-rigged a distress pulse using the vessel's dying reactor, and fashioned a crude pressure suit from cargo netting and thermal blankets. When the scavenger drone appeared, drawn by his signal, he hijacked it with nothing but a maintenance tablet and raw determination. The drone led him to a derelict station on the edge of the rift, a forgotten relic from the predecessor war. What the Vexenari didn't know, what no species in the galactic concordat remembered, was that humans had a gift for finding purpose in ruins. Thane spent 6 months in that graveyard of metal and memory. He learned, he built. He became something more than what they had left behind. The station's archives held secrets that made his blood run cold, and his heart burn with possibility. The predecessors hadn't been wiped out by some cosmic catastrophe. They had been betrayed just as he had been by species that valued survival over honor, and they had left behind weapons. Not the crude plasma cannons or particle beams the Concordat used, but something far more terrifying. Thane studied the art of war from civilizations dead for millennia. He absorbed tactics, strategies, and technologies that had been deliberately forgotten. He rebuilt himself, augmenting his body with predecessor implants that fused with his nervous system, enhancing his reflexes to inhuman levels. He forged armor from the station's hull, each plate inscribed with the names of those the Vexenari had abandoned before him. 17 names. 17 souls left to die in the cold equations of their efficiency. On his head he placed a circlet of twisted metal and crystal, a crown salvaged from the predecessor archives. It pulsed with a cold blue light, interfacing directly with his enhanced mind, turning him into a living weapon system. The crown of war, the archives called it, a symbol of leadership earned through blood and determination. When Commander Thane emerged from the rift 8 months after his abandonment, the galaxy had moved on. The Vexenari had won their war against the Krill Dominion, crushing them with the very tactics Thane had developed. They celebrated their victory across 100 worlds. Their council praised for their ruthless efficiency.
They had forgotten the human.
That was their first mistake. Thane's ship, cobbled together from predecessor technology and scavenged parts, appeared above the Vexenari homeworld like a nightmare made manifest. It was a patchwork monstrosity, bristling with weapons that shouldn't exist, powered by a reactor that bent the laws of physics into uncomfortable shapes. The Vexenari fleet moved to intercept, 300 vessels strong, the pride of their military might. Thane destroyed them in 47 minutes. He didn't use overwhelming firepower. He used their own tactics against them, turned their precious efficiency into a weapon. He predicted their movements with uncanny precision, the crown of war processing battlefield data faster than their computers could calculate. He struck at weak points they didn't know existed, exploited protocols they thought were secure, and turned their formation into a death trap of their own making. When the last Vexenari warship fell, trailing fire and debris, Thane opened a channel to the council. They saw him then, truly saw him, perhaps for the first time. The human they had dismissed as weak, as expendable, now wore a crown that blazed with ancient power. His eyes held the cold light of stars going supernova. "You left me for dead," Thane said, his voice carrying across every communication channel in the system. "You calculated my worth and found it wanting. You applied your mathematics of survival and deemed me unnecessary." The council chamber fell silent. Fear, an emotion they had long considered beneath them, crept into their hearts. "I am here to teach you a lesson about humans," Thane continued. "We are not efficient. We are not logical. We do not calculate odds when our backs are against the wall. We adapt, we endure, we become." He leaned forward, the crown pulsing brighter. "I have become your reckoning. The Vexnari Council, for the first time in their species' history, begged. They offered wealth, territory, technology, anything to appease the vengeful human who had conquered death itself. Thane considered their pleas with the same cold efficiency they had once shown him. Then he made his demand. Every species you have abandoned, every soldier you left behind in your equations of war, you will find them, you will bring them home, and you will never again calculate the worth of a life based on convenience. The Vexnari agreed. They had no choice. Commander Marcus Thane became a legend that day, whispered about in 1,000 languages across 1,000 worlds. The human who refused to die, the soldier who wore a crown forged from fury and determination, the man who taught the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their numbers, but their absolute, stubborn refusal to give up. They had left him for dead. He came back wearing a crown of war, and the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.